Hi, my name is Ron, and this is our Christmas Vital Moment. I want us to think about the nativity scene as it fits into the picture of the Christmas story from the perspective of the baby Jesus. You know, we can look at the story and we recognize that there's elements of it that are so beautiful and so powerful. I want to read for you the moment that the angels spoke to the shepherds. It's captured for us in Luke chapter 2. After he had told the shepherds not to be afraid, he said these words, "I bring you good news that will bring great joy to all people. The Savior, yes, the Messiah, the Lord, has been born today in Bethlehem, the city of David. And you will recognize him by this sign. You will find a baby wrapped snugly in strips of cloth, lying in a manger." You know, the whole point of the Christmas story is the point of Jesus, the reality of Emmanuel, God with us. But the one descriptive word that the angel uses to describe the baby is the word Savior. I love that word. It speaks so clearly to the purpose of why Jesus came. But I want you to think about it from a different perspective. I spoke with a friend of mine who's a midwife, and she told me that almost every baby, with a few exceptions, gasps for air and cries. She described it as a cry for life. When she said that, I was overwhelmed in that moment, and I even gasped myself when I realized that the Savior, he cried, he gasped for air, and he cried as he was brought into this world. You know, the fulfillment of the prophecy of a child being born and coming into this world in Bethlehem was given some 700 years prior to the birth of Jesus. It also follows a period of time where God was silent for 400 years. And the first time that God shows up after that 400 years is in the form of a baby, a Savior who cries. I was thinking about that as Jesus grew up and as he had friends, and there's one particular friend named Lazarus that he stood in front of his tomb and he actually wept over the loss of his friend. It wasn't just the idea of just the loss. It was actually the reality that death was even part of the human experience, because that was not the original design. And then you have another moment in Jesus' life where we see the true heart of the Savior when he hangs on a cross. And he cries out again, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do." You know, when I think about the story of Christmas, when I think about the power of Christmas, I recognize that the Savior cries out in the midst of the darkness to bring light. When we look at the Bible, it teaches us very clearly that the light brings life, that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. I can't help but think on this Christmas Eve what it means for you and for me to recognize that the Savior came for us, to bring light into our lives, to bring restoration, to pay the atoning price of sin so that we might be made right with God. But I also recognize that there's even something more incredibly powerful beyond just the beauty and the wonder of his grace and the eternal aspects of the power of Jesus and a relationship with him. But I recognize that he can bring light as the Savior into our loneliness, that he can bring light into our tension, into our angst, into our shame, even into our pain and our hurt. See, that's my hope and my prayer, is that as we step into this next day, which is called Christmas Day, that we would recognize the Savior for who he is, the one that came on our behalf to go to a cross, to take our sin upon himself, to be our Savior. And I guess for me, I ask this one question of you: is he your Savior? Will you allow him to be your Savior? I'm convinced that it is possible that for some, that this Christmas will be different because you see the baby differently, that you've recognized the power of the one who came for us. Jesus, born in a manger, gasped for air and cried the cry of life. As he looks at you and he looks at me, he wants to give us that life and life to the full. This is our Christmas vital moment. Merry Christmas.